Hello, junior squirrels, and any senior squirrels that want to join our junior squirrel reading. Granny's got a braid today from when I braided it last night. It just doesn't get in my way as much if I do that. So here we go with Tit Tot. Once upon a time, there was a woman, and she baked 5 pies. Wow, 5. But when they came out of the oven, they were overbaked. Oh, no. And the crust was far too hard to eat, so she said to her daughter, "Daughter," says she, "put those pies to the shelf and leave them there a while. Surely they'll come again in time." By that, you know, she meant that they would become softer. But her daughter said to herself, "If Mother says these pies will come again, why shouldn't I eat these now?" So she ate the lot. First, last, everything in between. Now when supper came, the woman said to her daughter, "Go you and get one of the pies. They are sure to have come again by now." Then the girl went and looked, but of course there was nothing but the empty dishes. So she came back and said, "No, Mother, they haven't come again." "Not one of them?" asked the mother, taken aback. "Not one of them," says the daughter, quite confidently. "Well," says the mother, "come again or not come again, I will have one of those pies for my supper." "But you can't," says the daughter. "How can you if they haven't come?" "But I can," says the mother. "Go you at once, child, and bring me the best of them." "Best or worst is all one," answered the daughter quite sulkily, "for I have eaten the lot, so you can't have one till it comes again, so there." Well, the mother bounced up to see, but half an eye told her there was nothing save the empty dishes. So having no supper, she sat down on the doorstep and bringing her distaff began to spin. And as she spun, she sang, "My daughter ha' ate 5 pies today. My daughter ha' ate 5 pies today. My daughter ha' ate 5 pies today." For see you, she was quite flabbergasted and fair astonished. Now the king of that country happened to be coming down the street, and he heard that song going on, but could not quite make out the words. So he stopped his horse and asked, "What is that you're singing, my good woman?" Now the mother, though horrified at her daughter's appetite, did not want other folk, leastwise the king, to know about it, so she sang instead, "My daughter has spun 5 skeins today. My daughter has spun 5 skeins today. My daughter has spun 5 skeins today." "5 skeins!" cried the king. By my garter and my crown, I never heard tell of anyone who could do that." "Look you here, I have been searching for a maiden whom I can make my wife, and your daughter who can spin 5 skeins a day is the very one for me. Only mind you, though, for 11 months of the year she shall be queen indeed, and have all she likes to eat, all the gowns she likes to get, all the company she likes to keep, and everything her heart desires. In the 12th month she must set to work and spin 5 skeins a day, and if she does not, she will be banished. Come, is it a bargain?" So the mother agreed. She thought what a grand marriage it was for her daughter, and as for the 5 skeins, time enough to bother about them when the year came round. There was many a slip between cup and lip, and likely as not the king would forget all about it by then. Anyhow, her daughter would be queen for 11 months, so they were married, and for 11 months the bride was happy as happy could be. She had everything she liked to eat. Wonder if she gained a lot of weight if she could eat 5 pies. All the gowns she liked to get, all the company she cared to keep, and everything her heart desired. And her husband, the king, was kind as kind could be. But in the 10th month, she began to think of those 5 skeins and wonder if the king remembered. And in the 11th month she began to dream about them as well, but ne'er a word did the king her husband say about them, so she hoped he had forgotten. But on the very last day of the 11th month, the king, her husband, led her into a room she had never set eyes on before. It had one window, and there was nothing in it but a stool and a spinning wheel. "Now, my dear," he said, quite kind-like, "you will be shut in here tomorrow morning with some victuals," food, "and some flax, and by evening, if you have not spun 5 skeins, off you go." Well, she was fair frightened, for she had always been such a senseless, heedless girl that she had never learnt to spin at all. So what was she to do on the morrow she could not tell, for you see, she had no one to help her, for of course now she was queen, her mother didn't live nigh her. So she just locked the door of her room, sat down upon the stool, and cried until her pretty eyes were all red. Now as she sate, S-A-T-E, sobbing and crying, she heard a queer little noise at the bottom of the door. At first she thought it was a mouse. Could have been one of these little critters. Possum. Here's our little possum, Opie. She opened the door, and what did she see? Why, a small little black thing with a long tail that whisked round and round ever so fast. "What are you crying for?" said the thing in capital letters, making a bow and twirling its tail as fast as she could scarcely see it. "What's that to you?" said she, shrieking a bit, for that thing was very queer-like. "Don't look at my tail if you're frightened," says that, smirking. "Look at my toes. Don't you think they're beautiful?" And sure enough, that on buckled shoes with high heels and big bows, ever so smart, so she kind of forgot about the tail and wasn't so frightened. And when that, now a capital T in that, asked her again to tell him why she was crying, she said, "It won't do any good if I do." "You don't know that," says that, twirling its tail faster and faster and sticking out its toes. "Come tell me, there's a good girl." "Well," says she, "it can't do any harm if it doesn't do any good." So she dried her pretty eyes and told that all about the pies and the skeins and everything from first to last. And then that little black thing nearly burst from laughing. "If that is all, it's easily mended," it says. "I'll come to your window every morning, take the flax, and bring it back spun into 5 skeins at night. Come, shall it be a bargain?" Now she, for all she was so senseless and thoughtless, said cautious-like, "But what is your pay?" Then that twirled its tail so fast you couldn't see it, and stuck out its beautiful toes, and smirked and looked out of the corner of its eyes. "I will give you 3 guesses every night to guess my name." What's this sound like? Rumpelstiltskin. "And if you haven't guessed it before the month is up, why..." And that twirled its tail faster and stuck out its toes further and smirked and snickered more than ever. "You shall be mine, my beauty." And oh, how that twirled its tail and bowed and smirked and stuck out its beautiful toes. Well, the very next day her husband led her to the strange room again, and there was the day's food and a spinning wheel and a great bundle of flax. "There you are, my dear," says he, as polite as polite, "and remember, if there are not 5 whole skeins tonight, off you go." At that she began to tremble, and after he had gone away and locked the door, she was just thinking of a good cry when she heard a queer knocking at the window. She got up at once and opened it, and sure enough, there was the small little black thing sitting on the window ledge, dangling its beautiful toes and twirling its tail so that you could scarcely see it. "Good morning, my beauty," says that. "Come, hand over the flax sharp. There's a good girl." So she gave that the flax and shut the window, and you may be sure ate her food, for as you know, she had a good appetite. And the king had promised to give her everything she liked to eat, so she ate to her heart's content. And when evening came, she heard that queer knocking at the window again. She got up and opened it, and there was a small little black thing with 5 spun skeins on his arm. And it twirled its tail faster than ever and stuck out its beautiful toes and bowed and smirked and gave her the 5 skeins. Then that said, "Now, my beauty, what is that's name?" And she answered quite easy like, "That is Bill." "No," says that, and twirled its tail. "Then that is Ned," says she. "No," says that, and twirled its tail faster. "Well," says she, a bit more thoughtful, "that is Mark." "No," says that, and laughs and laughs and laughs and twirls its tail so you couldn't see as away it flew. Well, then the king, her husband, came in. He was well pleased to see the 5 skeins all ready for him, for he was fond of his pretty wife. "I shall not have to send you off today, my dear," says he, "and I hope all the other days will pass as happily." Then he said good night and locked the door and left her. But next morning they brought her fresh flax and even more delicious food, and the small little black thing came knocking at the door and stuck out its beautiful toes and twirled its tail faster and faster, and took away the bundle of flax and brought it back all spun into 5 skeins by evening. Then that made her guess 3 times what that's name was, but she could not guess right, and that laughed and laughed as it flew away. Now, every morning and evening the same thing happened, and every evening she had her 3 guesses, but she never guessed right, and every day the small little black thing laughed louder and louder and smirked more and more, and so instead of eating all the fine foods left for her, she spent the day in trying to think of names to say, but she never hit upon the right one. So it came to the last day of the month but one. And when the small little black thing arrived in the evening with the 5 skeins of flax already spun, it could hardly say for smirking, "Have you got that's name yet?" "So," says she, "is that Nicodemus?" "No," said that, twirled its tail faster than you could see. "Is that Samuel?" says she, all of a flutter. "No, my beauty," says that. "Well, is that Methuselah?" says she. And these are Bible names, aren't they? Inclined to cry, then that just fixes her with eyes like coal of fire and says, "No, it's not that either, so there's only tomorrow night, and then off with me you will go." And away the small little black thing flew, its tail twirling and whisking so fast that you couldn't see it. Well, she felt so badly she couldn't even cry, but she heard the king, her husband, coming to the door. So she tried to be cheerful and tried to smile when he said, "Well done, wife. 5 skeins again. I shall not have to banish you now, my dear. Of that I'm quite sure, so let us enjoy ourselves." Then he bade his servants bring supper and a stool for him to sit beside his queen. But the poor queen could eat nothing. She could not forget the small little black thing, and the king hadn't eaten but a mouthful or 2 when he began to laugh, and he laughed so long and so loudly that at last the poor queen, all like a daisicle as she was, said, "Why do you laugh so?" "At something I saw today, my love," says the king. "I was out hunting, and by chance I came to a place I'd never been in before. It was in a wood, and there was an old chalk pit there, and out of the chalk pit there came a queer sort of a bumming noise, so I got off my horse to see what it was, and went quietly to the edge of the pit and looked down, and what do you think I saw? The funniest, queerest, smallest little black thing you ever set eyes upon. And it had a little spinning wheel, and it was spinning away for dear life, but the wheel didn't go as fast as its tail. And that spun round and round, ha ha, you never saw the like. And its little feet had buckled shoes and bows on them, and they went up and down in a desperate hurry, and all the time that small little black thing kept humming and booming away at these words, name me not. Who'll guess it's Tom Tit Tot?" Well, when she heard these words, the queen nearly jumped out of her skin for joy, but she managed to say nothing, but ate her supper quite comfortably. And she said no word when next morning the small little black thing came for the flax, though it looked so gleeful and maliceful that she could hardly help laughing, knowing she had got the better of it. And when night came and she heard that knocking against the window panes, she put on a wry face and opened the door slowly as if she were afraid. But that was as bold as brass and came right inside, grinning from ear to ear, and oh my goodness, how that tail was twirling and whisking. "Well, my beauty," says that, giving her the 5 skeins already spun. "What's my name?" Then she put down her lip and says, tearful like, Is that Solomon?" "No," laughs that, smirking out of the corner of that eye. And the small little black thing came further into the room, so she tried again, and this time she seemed hardly able to speak for fright. "Well, is that Zebedee?" says she. "No," cried the infant full of glee, and it came quite close and stretched out its little black hands to her, and oh, its tail. "Take time, my beauty," says that. "Take time. Remember, next guess and you're mine." Well, she backed just a wee bit from it, but then she laughed out and pointed her finger at it and said, says she, name me not. Your name is Tom Tit Tot." And you never heard such a shriek as that small little black thing gave out. Its tail dropped down straight, its feet all crumpled up, and away that flew into the dark, and she never saw it again. And she lived happy ever after with her husband, the king. The end. And the next one we will read, not today, but the next time, is The Lad Who Went to the North Wind. So like Miss Linda Jean House said, a lot of the old fairy tales were kind of like the originals, and like Rumpelstiltskin may have come from that one. And you know, in different countries, there are variances. Let's see. I think that's it. And we'll be reading Little Women later on with seniors. Okay, be sweet. Don't be ugly. And I'll be live at 3 today, Sunday the, what is this, 8th? 9th? I'm not sure. I need a calendar in here. Love y'all. Bye.